Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Lily, and today is a scary story video. We are going to read The Body-Snatcher by Robert Louis Stevenson. Ooh. Let's start with the video, shall we? The Body-Snatcher by Robert Louis Stevenson. Every night in the year, four of us sat in the small parlor of the George at Debenham. The undertaker and the landlord and Fettes and myself. Sometimes there will be more, but blow high, blow low, come rain or snow or frost, we four will be each planted in its own particular armchair. Fettes was an old drunkard Scotsman, a man of education obviously, and a man of some property, since he lived in the idleness. He had come to Debenham years ago, while still young, and by a mere continuance of living had grown to be an adopted townsman. His blue camlet cloak was a local antiquity, the church spire. His place in the parlor at the George, his absence from church, his old crapulous, disreputable vices were all things, of course, in Debenham. He had some vague radical opinions and some fleeting infidelities, which he would now and again set forth and emphasize with tottering slaps upon the table. He drank rum, 5 glasses regularly, every night, and from the greater portion of his nightly visits to the George, sat, with his glass in his right hand, in a state of melancholy alcoholic saturation. We call him the doctor, for he was supposed to have some special knowledge of medicine, and had been known, upon a pinch, to set a fracture or reduce a dislocation. But beyond these slight particulars, we had no knowledge of his character and antecedents. One dark winter night, it had struck 9 some time before the landlord joined us. There was a sick man in the George, a great neighboring proprietor, suddenly struck down with an apoplexy on his way to the Parliament, and the great man's still greater London doctor had been telegraphed to his bedside. It was the first time that such thing had happened in Debenham, for the railway was but newly open, and we were all proportionately moved by the occurrence. "He come," said the landlord, after he had filled and lighted his pipe. "He?" said I. "Who? Not the doctor?" "Himself," replied our host. "What is his name?" "Dr. McFarlane," said the landlord. Feet was far through his third tumbler, stupidly fuddled, now nodding over, now staring mazily around him. But at the last word he seemed to awaken, and repeated the name McFarlane twice, quietly enough the first, but with sudden emotion at the second. "Yes," said the landlord, "that's his name, Dr. Wolfe McFarlane." Fitz became instantly sober. His eyes awoke. His voice became clear, loud and steady, his language forcible and earnest. We were all startled by the transformation, as if a man had risen from the dead. "I beg your pardon," he said. "I'm afraid I haven't not been paying much attention to your talk. Who is this Wolfe McFarlane?" And then, when he had heard the landlord out, "It cannot be," he added. "And yet I would like to see him face to face." "Do you know him, doctor?" asked the undertaker with a gasp. "God forbid," was the reply. "And yet his name is a strange one. It were too much to fancy to. Tell me, landlord, is he old?" "Well," said the host, "he's not a young man, to be sure, and his hair is white, but he looks younger than you. He's older, though, years older, but," with a slap upon the table, "it's the rum, you see, in my face. Rum and sin. This man perhaps may have an easy conscience and a good digestion. Conscience, hear me speak. You will think I was some good old decent Christian, wouldn't you not? But no, I never canted. Voltaire might have canted if he'd stood in my shoes, but the brains," with a rattling flip on his bald head, "the brains were all clear and active. I saw and made no deductions." "If you know this doctor," I ventured to remark after somewhat awful pause, "I should gather what you do not share the landlord's good opinion." Fitz paid no regard to me. "Yes," he said with sudden decision. "I must see him face to face." There was another pause, and then the doctor was closed rather sharply on the first floor, and a step was heard upon the stairs. "Oh, that's the doctor," cried the landlord. "Look sharp, and you can catch him." It was but 2 steps from the small parlor to the door of the Old George Inn. The wide oak staircase landed almost in the street. There was room for a turkey rug, and nothing more between the threshold and the last round of the descent. But this little space was every evening brilliantly lit up, not only by the light upon the stair and the great signal lamp below the sign, but by the warm radiance of the bar-room window. The George thus brightly advertised itself to passers-by in the cold street. Fitz walked steadily to the spot, and we, who were hanging behind, beheld 2 men meet, as one of them had phrased it, face to face. Dr. McFarlane was alertly vigorous. His white hair set off his pale and placid, although energetic, countenance. He was richly dressed in the finest of broadcloth and the whitest of linens, with his great gold watch chain and studs that spectacles of the same precious material. He wore a broad folded tie, white and speckled with lilac, and he carried on his arm a comfortable driving coat of fur. There was no doubt but he became his years, breathing, as he did, of wealth and consideration, and it was surprisingly contrast to see our parlor sot, bald, dirty, pimpled, and robed in his old common cloak, confront him at the bottom of the stairs. "McFarlane," he said somewhat loudly, come like a herald that a friend. The great doctor pulled up short of the 4th step, as though the familiarity of the address surprised and somewhat shocked his dignity. "Dudley McFarlane," repeated Fettes. The London man almost stuttered. He stared for the swiftest of seconds at the man before him, glanced behind him with a sort of scared, and then a startled whisper. "Fist," he said. "You." "Aye," said the other. "Me? Did you think I was dead too? We are not so easy shut of our acquaintance." "Hush, hush," exclaimed the doctor. "Hush, hush! This meeting is so unexpected. I can see you unnamed. I hardly knew you, I confess at first, but I am overjoyed to have this opportunity. For the present it must be how die-ado and goodbye in one. For my fly is waiting, and I must not fail to train, but you shall, let me see, yes, you shall give me your address, and you can count on early news of me. We must do something for you, Fitz. I fear you are out at elbows, but we must see that you, for old lang syne, as one we sang at suppers." "Money?" cried Fitz. "Money for you? The money that I had from you is lying where I cast it in the rain." Dr. Marfano had talked himself into some measure of superiority and confidence, but the uncommon energy of this refusal cast him back into his first confusion. A horrible, ugly look came and went across his almost venerable countenance. "My dear fellow," he said, "be it as you please. My last thought is to offend you. I will intrude on none. I will leave you my address, however." "I do not wish it. I do not wish to know the roof that shelters you," interrupted the other. "I heard your name. I fear it might be you. I wish to know if, after all, there were a God. I know now that there is none. Begone!" He still stood in the middle of the rug, between the stair and the doorway, and the great London physician, in order to escape, would be forced to step to one side. It was plain, and he hesitated before the thought of his humiliation. White as he was, There was a dangerous glitter in his spectacles, but while he still paused uncertain, he became aware that the driver of his fly was peering in from the street and this at this unusual scene and caught a glimpse at the same time of our little buddy from the parlor, huddled by the corner of the bar. The presence of so many witnesses decided him that once to flee. He crouched together, brushing on the wainscot, and made a dart like a serpent, striking for the door. But his tribulation was not yet entirely at the end, for even as he was pacing, Fettes clutched him by the arm, and these words came in a whisper, and yet painfully distinct. "Have you seen it again?" The great rich London doctor cried out loud with a sharp, throaty cry. He dashed his questioner across the open space and, with his hands over his head, fled out of the door like a detected thief. Before it had occurred to one of us to make a movement, the fly was already rattling towards the station. The scene was over like a dream, but the dream had left proof and traces of his passage. Next day, the servant found the fine gold spectacles broken on the threshold, and that every night we were all standing breathless by the bar-room window, and Fettes at our side, sober, pale, and resolute in his look. "God protect us, Mr. Fettes," said the landlord, coming first into possession of his customary senses. "What in the universe is all of this? These are strange things you have been saying." Fettes turned towards us. He looked us each in succession in the face. "See if you can hold your tongues," said he. "The man MacFarnell is not safe to cross. Those that have done so already have repeated too late." And then, without so much as finishing his third glass, far less waiting for the other two, he bade us goodbye and went forth, under the lamp of the hotel, into the black night. So, what do you think about this story? What is this mysterious Dr. MacFarnell? And what is the question? Have you seen it again? What do you think it means? This is a very interesting story, and I want to know in the comments if you would like to know what is up next. I will see you in the next one every Saturday with this scary story and more. See you in the next episode. I love you. Bye bye.